So the recording has started. I'm David Mammarella. I'll be doing tonight's session. I have my colleague Kim McDonald online as well. If you have any questions during the session will run for about an hour. I'm going to try to cover the key points to using Blackboard, navigation, and so on. Cover, how to upload documents, key communication tools, pretty much the basic things that you would need to do if you're moving your course onto Blackboard. If you have any questions at all during today's session, please feel free to use the group chat. My colleague Kim will be looking for questions in there and responding to you. I also will spend time afterwards, after our session's done, after about an hour, I will kind of open it up to all questions or anything we covered. And I can also unmute your mic as well. So for the next hour or so, we'll go over kind of the basics of using Blackboard. So for those of you that are absolutely brand new, where you go is blackboard.albany.edu to log in. That's the direct URL. You would put in your net ID and password and click on login. Over here on the right-hand side under the Academics tab, this is going to list the courses you are teaching. So all instructors have access to Blackboard, but not all courses are turned on. In a couple of minutes, I'll show you how to turn your course on. So just to show you what a blank template looks like, I'm just going to go into a blank template. So this is what your course template will look like. Over here on the course menu at the left, you'll have announcements, course content, my grades. You'll have some student resources. I'm going to go into a sample course in just a minute because I have all things kind of already pre-uploaded, but I just want to look at just to display what a sample course will look like with our template. I also want to point out a couple things since faculty are moving your courses online. You're going to be teaching remotely. A few things of importance and some common questions we're getting. How do you deliver some webinars to students or record your screen? How do you deliver that to students? There's a tool called Zoom. If you go to this website, albany.zoom.us, if you want to jot that down, feel free to take a picture with your phone. Zoom is used for synchronous instruction, and you can also do a screen recording if you wanted to do that and then upload it as well for students. So Zoom is one option. The second option listed here is called Respondus. This is a free test building software. In today's session, I'll show you how to create tests. I'll go over some of the basics, but if you already have tests built out on Word, you can use Respondus. It's helpful for if you already created tests and you want to kind of upload them all at once rather than going one question at a time. So if you go to, I know this is a very long URL, but if you go to our wiki.albany.edu and just put in the word Respondus, you will find this link right here. So these are two helpful links, Zoom and Respondus. I will just point out. Feel free to take a look at those, after tonight's session. So right now, I'm going to go out of the sample course, the sample template, and I'm going to go into a practice course of mine that's going to look a little bit different. Notice it looks a little bit different, but I still have the same thing, the Zoom and Respondus links here. So let me give an overview of the navigation here on Blackboard. At the top right, there's something called Edit Mode On and Off. Edit Mode On. This means you're in as the instructor. You can upload files, documents, create web links, create tests, and so on. When you click on, it then shifts to Edit Mode Off. Edit Mode Off kind of mirrors a student view. If you want to see 100% student view, there's an icon here just to the left. It looks like an eyeball icon. This is called Enter Student Preview. If you click on this, it says Student Preview Mode is on. So this will display what the course looks like to a student. I'm going to click on Exit. So if you want to see what a student sees, you can click that eyeball icon. For right now, I'm going to put my edit mode back on. Also at the top right corner, it lists your name, and at the very far right is a log out button, which is important. On the left-hand side, this is a course menu. Now notice in that sample template I showed at the very beginning, there's just a few things listed. I list all these things. It's just for quick and easy navigation. In my real class, I adjunct over in the communication department. My course menu is about half this length, but I just put everything here, so it's just quickly for me to navigate to when I'm doing today's training session. But you don't want to have 20 buttons listed on your course menu. This is not good pedagogy, but this is just for training purposes only. So this is your course menu. I'll show how to add to it in just a little bit. At the bottom left is called the control panel. This is only for instructor use. Students will not see the control panel. So we got the course menu, the control panel, and over here in the main part of the screen, this is the course content area. So I'm going to start off with the control panel. There's a few very important things to note. I'm going to start off with customization and properties. So what I'm going to show is how do you actually turn your course on. By default, all instructors have Blackboard access, but the Blackboard courses are not turned on. So to turn your course on, make it available to students, you got to go to customization and properties. So this will say no. You need to switch it to use term availability, which right now we're in the spring term, so the term is available. Or if you were to click on yes, either way, that would make your course, would make it available to students. And then you would click on submit. So very important, you need to turn your course on. If you don't turn it on, your students will not see it. The other thing under customization, which is important, is called teaching style. The entry point, what is it that you want your students to see first when they first log into your class? The most common is probably announcements, but anything that you can click from the drop-down arrow. If I wanted the discussion board to appear first, if I want my course content and so on, you can choose that. I would recommend using the announcements tool. So as soon as students log in, they will see whatever your announcement is. Scrolling down a little bit more, do you want your course menu to appear as text or buttons? On the original template I showed, our sample basic template, it displays as text. I modified mine in my real class. I actually use these purple buttons, so that's what it looks like. It's totally a matter of preference, text or buttons. When you've chosen what you want, just click on submit. So again, customization properties is how you open up your course. Moving up here on the control panel, under users and groups, there's a couple things I will point out. Under users, by default, all students are automatically enrolled in your Blackboard course. However, if you need to enroll a TA, you can go up to find users to enroll. This is a very common question to get. How do I enroll a TA? Click find users to enroll. If you know their net ID, you can just type it directly in here, and you can choose the role of teaching assistant, or depends on whatever the person's role is. Most likely would be a TA. So net ID, put their role and click submit. If you do not know their net ID, that's fine. All you gotta do is click browse. You can browse by their last name and select their net ID. And also, again, choose whatever role you want. Right now, I'm gonna hit cancel. If you don't have a TA, you really don't need to worry about it, but if you do need to add a TA, that's how you would go about doing it. The groups tool. I'll just highlight this briefly. If you want to break up your class into some small groups, so whatever the size of your class is, and you want to maybe have some smaller group discussions, you can do that with Blackboard. So if I come up top here and I click create, there's a group set. There's 3 different options. The most common will be a random enroll. This means students can be randomly put into your group. So if you have 3, 4, 5 groups, they will be randomly put into the groups. Manual enroll means you decide what students go into what groups. And then the last option at the very top, self-enroll. This means this is like a self-sign-up sheet for students. The most common will be a random enroll. I'll just briefly display how this works, and then I'm going to go on to some other stuff. I'm going to put in a keyword. I'm just going to use the word group. You do not want to put a number after it, and the reason is if you put group 1, it'll then say group 1-1, group 1-2. So just put a keyword, do not put a number after it. Below here is tool availability, and a little bit later in today's session, I'm going to talk about the different communication tools, at least at a basic level. So any tools you want to use, check. Anything you don't want to use, you would uncheck. For right now, I'm just going to keep all these tools checked. Scrolling down to the bottom, how many groups do you want to set up? So I want to set up, let's say 3 groups. And depending if you have an even odd number, you can distribute the remaining members or the other 2 options. So I'll click 3 groups and I'm going to distribute the remaining members and click submit. Now I already created a title with group 1, 2, and 3 before. That's why you're seeing duplicates. So I have a ton of groups here. I probably need to clean up this page at some point. But this is what it's going to look like. Whatever group you created, it's going to say group 1, group 2, group 3. So right here, this will say the number of students enrolled in the group. So just to go into this first group, what does this look like? This will display the group members. This is a fake class. These are fake students. And this will display the tools. So if I go back, so this is the one I just created, the one with all the tools. And these are the student names. If you want to go into the group discussion board, you can click on that tool. You can set up a forum, and I'm going to get into this in a little bit later on to how you set up a forum, but this is what the groups tool is. Students are only going to see the group that they're enrolled in, and they're only going to see the tools you make available to them. So again, it's under users and groups, and click on groups. Moving my way up the control panel, the grade center. Again, I'm going to try to hit the key points. The 2 main things, needs grading and the full grade center. Needs grading. This is where you go when you need to grade your students. When they submit assignments, where do you go to grade them? It's right here under needs grading. A little later on, I'll show you how to create an assignment, but for right now, since I'm in this screen, I'll show you how to grade a student's assignment. So this will say what the assignment is called, assignment October 2019. This is the student name, this is my demo student, and this is the day and time it was submitted. So if I click on the student's name, this will bring up the student's submission. You can read it right here. I just put a few words in, but assuming this would be a few paragraphs or a couple pages. If you want to open up the student's paper into a Word document or PDF, depends how they've saved it, click the drop-down arrow to the far right. Then you can click open or save. I'm going to hit cancel. If you want to make comments on that student's paper, save it to your desktop. You can make comments, and then you can re-upload it if you want to attach it. Right here, there's a paperclip icon if you want to attach student feedback. So this is under feedback to learner. If you just want to give kind of generic comments, a little more brief, you can just type it in the feedback to learner field. And then at the top here, you can put in a grade. You would only use the paperclip icon if you are attaching your feedback. Towards the bottom here, it says add notes. Most likely this field will be left blank. This is grading notes private. This is just notes for yourself. Students will not see this. We have had some instructors over the years, they put in feedback here to students, and they never understand why students never acknowledge what they wrote or never make any changes. It's because they don't see it. So feedback to learner, students will see. Grading notes private, they will not see. Most likely this will be left blank. A reason you would use this is if a student is sick or there's some reason they got to be out, you may want to put a note in here, student gave me documentation, I'm giving them an extension. Now, since everything's moving online, that may not pertain as much, but I just wanted to point those 2 things out. Also, here on the student submission, there's a couple things you can do. There's 2 options here. There's a drawing annotation. You want to click this. You can draw something if you want, highlight something, and you can also make inline comments. So you can read through and put in comments. and you can post them. I'm just going to hit cancel. So the nice thing about this is you can make comments on the fly. The downside is students will not be able to download your feedback. So if you want to have students be able to download your feedback, you probably want to attach it. But again, it depends how many students you have, how much feedback you want to give. If I were to click submit, this student submission would then be removed from the needs grading area. Right now, I'm just going to hit cancel. So again, to grade students, it's Grade Center needs grading. The full Grade Center. We can do a whole session on this, so I'm just going to try to hit some of the high points. Will display all of your students in the class. It'll show the last time they've accessed the class. It'll display all your assignments. So whenever you create an assignment, which I will show in a little bit, any assignment you create will create a column in the full Grade Center. So the new assignment will then go all the way to the far right. You can create a manual column if you want to do like attendance. There's also calculated columns. If you want to do a total, you can add up all the scores, a weighted column, this is 10%, 20%. So there's different options. You can also work offline. You can download the Grade Center if you want. You can download it to Excel if you need to put a certain formula in, and then you can also re-upload it. So that's just some of the very basics of using the full Grade Center. There's also managing the Grade Center. There's a lot of different options, but I'm just trying to hit the high points, the most needed things you're going to use for getting your course online. So that's under Grade Center. So those are the most important things under the control panel. Now I'm going to go up top to the top left. How do I add menu items? So if you remember back at the very beginning, I showed the sample template that just had a few things listed. How do you add what I have here? You want to make sure, first of all, your edit mode is on here at the top right. And you can come here and with a click the plus icon. And you can choose tool link. So any tool you want to add, if I wanted to add the discussion board, click the tool, and you can label it whatever you want. You could label it forums, you could label it discussion board, call it whatever you want, check available to users, and click on submit. I'm not actually going to submit it because I already have it linked right here. Any tool you want to add, just choose it. If you want to add announcements, label it, name it, or choose it, and then label it and click on submit. So to add any tool, it's under tool link. Now notice if I click edit mode and make it off, notice this plus icon will disappear because you're kind of viewing the class as a student. So you want to make sure your edit mode is set to on. The other thing of importance is your content area. So this would be labeled most likely like a course content, and in the default template, this is already there for you. Label it, you can call it whatever you want, course content, lectures, you can call it whatever. So what a content area is, let me go into a course content, and I will come back afterwards and go over all the different tools. So when you do a content area, it'll display these buttons at the top. So this is the kind of the meat and potatoes of your course. So let me first start with the build content option. First thing you want to do, even before you get into Blackboard, you probably want to map out on paper the remaining 6.5 weeks of the semester. You probably want to organize things into some folders or learning modules. So there's two options. There's a content folder and a learning module. So let me explain the difference. A content folder is this yellow folder. If I click on it, whatever I've included in here will be displayed. A learning module, which is an option right here, displays as this blue folder icon. So what's the difference? A learning module will give you a table of contents. This can be incredibly useful if you're teaching fully online. You can encompass everything you want into that learning module. Your lecture notes, any PDFs, web links, videos, You can include discussions, any assignments, everything can be included there, and it can be in a table of contents. So that's the difference. The content folder is the yellow folder, and this one is the blue folder with a table of contents. That's in a nutshell kind of what the big difference is. How do you upload files? How do you upload your syllabus or PDFs, PowerPoints, etc.? You can upload your files through either item or file. You can attach a file with both. However, with an item, you also have a text box. So if you want to type additional text, you can do so, and there's the option to attach a file. If I click on submit, whenever you upload will go to the bottom. Maybe not. It should go to the bottom, but so there it is. I'm not actually sure where it went, but let me create a folder so I can create something from scratch. I'm gonna do a content folder. I'm gonna call it March 12, just to show you from scratch. March 12 folder, submit. Not sure why it's putting it here, but so here's the folder I just created, and it's blank. So if I come up here and create an item, here's my text, and I will click on submit. There's my item. It'll display as such. If I go to edit mode off, that's what it's going to look like to a student. If I come up here and choose file, notice there's no text box. You can just simply attach your file. This is what I do in my class. If I'm uploading slides, I simply just browse my computer, attach it, label it. There's an option for opening in a new window, yes or no. If you open in a new window, it'll open your slides or PDF in a separate window. You can close out of it and still remain within Blackboard. So you have a text box, file does not, but you can attach a file with both. Web link, if you want to add a web link in. Put a link to Yahoo. So put the web link, you can either type it directly or copy and paste depending how long it is. Open a new window, yes, no, I'll keep it as yes, and permit users to view, I'll keep it as yes. So I'll click submit. Notice now I'm starting to develop the things I want under this March 12 folder. If I click this Yahoo web link, notice it will now open up a separate web page. I can close out of it and still remain in Blackboard. At the bottom right here, if you want to upload videos, there's something called Ensemble Video. This is for audio and video. You can store your files there and you can link them from Ensemble to Blackboard. So if I click Ensemble Video, I think we were running into issues a little while ago, so I may not be able to actually show you this. I don't think so. So let me go back and show you what Ensemble Video looks like. Right now, it's not working properly. Let's see if I have an Ensemble Video. All right, so I can't really show it because it's not working. But once we get this back working again, if you want to upload any of your lectures, maybe you create something on Zoom, maybe it's a film, whatever it is, you can upload it to Ensemble Video, and then you can link it to Blackboard. I can't show it right now because the service is unfortunately down, but it's under Ensemble Video. Another neat thing to show, which is also down, is the YouTube mashup. What this looks like is this is a mashup right here. You can click on it. You can basically, what this does, this will embed a YouTube video directly into your course. If you click on this, it'll pop out, it'll embed the video without you taking you out to the YouTube website. Again, we're running into some issues with that. So if you do need to upload a YouTube clip, you can just go to web link and put the YouTube clip in that way. So those are some of the most important things. Item file, but you want to organize your course either by a content folder or a learning module. So let me show you when one folder is available and one folder is not available. So if we have like 6 or so weeks left in the semester, maybe you don't want your students to see everything you're going to do in April and into May. Maybe you just want them to see what you're going to do on that week after spring break. So if I wanted to hide a certain folder, click on the drop down arrow to the right, click on edit. Where it says permit users to view, you can say yes or no. I'm going to hit no and hit submit. My own preference, I have everything in my class, but I don't want students to see everything from day one. So right here, as the instructor, you can see it's grayed out and it's hidden from students. What does this look like for students? If I click edit mode off, notice the week 2 folder is gone. It's gone from student view, but you still have access to it. So to view it as the instructor, just make sure your edit mode is on, but students are not going to see it until you make it available. So you can come back and click on edit, and you can do one of 2 things. Simply turn it on and they will see it, or, which is a neat feature, you can do a display after option. So maybe you don't want this available now, but maybe you want this available on March 23 when they come back from spring, or when classes resume after spring break online. If I were to click on submit, notice it's still grayed out, but it says this folder will now be available after this day and time. So the same process holds true for folders, for files. So it's up to you if you want to have everything displayed or if you want to kind of go week by week, display what you want to display. Right now, I'm going to just make it available. I'm going to remove the display after, and now it's available. So those are some of the basics of creating folders, creating some files. Again, map out on paper, try to have some organization so you break up what you need to break up. You don't want to just have 30 files listed on one page. It's not the best navigation. So moving next, on the next tab is the assessments tab. There's 2 things of importance that I'll highlight. One is test and the other is assignment. So with test, what this is, you can create multiple choice, short answer, fill in the blank tests. By far the most common will be multiple choice. The nice thing about using the test feature in Blackboard is the test can be timed and you can randomize questions and answers, which is pretty neat. From my own research, from talking to colleagues, students actually do about the same. There's no significant difference taking a test face-to-face versus taking it online. So if the average test score is an 80 face-to-face, online, give or take a few points, they'll get around an 80, as long as you time the test. If you don't put a time limit on there, then hopefully they all do really well in the test. But if you have a time limit, they do about the same, give or take a few points from what the score would be average in class. So that's what the test feature is. Let me just, let me find an assessment here just to show you what it looks like briefly, and then I'm going to go in and create an assignment. So this is a quiz that was already created. I just want to show you what this looks like. So what does this look like for a student? So it gives the test information. It could be 1 attempt, multiple attempts, depends how you have it set up. So these are the questions. These are some multiple choice. I'm just going to select whatever. I'm just going to click the first answer. I'm going to click Save Answer. Notice here at the top, it marks it as saved. I go to the second question. I'll just click Answer at random. I click Save Answer, and it saves. So this is what a test looks like for students. In terms of time limits, if a test on average, takes, let's say, a half hour in class, maybe give them an extra 10 minutes or so, maybe give them 40, 45 minutes to do it online. One thing to take into consideration, which is a very common question faculty ask us, is if I put my test online, can't students cheat? You have to take into consideration any test given online is considered an open book test. So take all that into account by how you word the questions. So let's take math as an example. If students are understanding the comprehension of basic addition, you know, you can plug in 2 plus 2, you can change all the numbers around. So you want to test when you're creating test questions, try to test that they're understanding the material, not so much, okay, I open up the page 10, there's the answer. So take that into mind. Any book or any test given online is an open book test. Expect students to have their book open and their notes open. So take that into consideration when you are creating the test. So the test can automatically be graded. I'm not going to go into showing that. I just want to show you what the test looks like. I'm actually going to close out of the assessment here. But if you want to start creating a test, go under, in your own class, go under assessments, choose test. You can click create a new test. I'll just show you what this looks like very briefly. So you would label the test, click on submit. So this brings you to this option. You can do, there's a lot of different test options. The most common, as I said, is a multiple choice, which can automatically be graded. Fill in the blank, short answer, you still have to look at it. So multiple choice would be the most common. I'm just going to create one question just to show you what this looks like. The question text, I'll just say Q1 for question 1. Right here, show answers in a random order, which is a neat feature. So A, B, C, D for me may display differently. It's going to display differently for everybody. So this is a good thing of trying to alleviate student cheating. How many how many choices do you want students to choose from? They go from 4 and for some reason all the way down to 100. I don't know why so many, but 4 is probably the most common. If you only want 3 answers, click remove. So right here, I'll say this is A, B, C, and D. Whatever the correct answer is, you can select it. So if A is the correct answer, if it's B, if you do show answers in random order, you can always make A the correct answer because it's always going to randomize it. Maybe the answer is going to be A for somebody, but for somebody else, it could be B, C, or D. So if you put answers in random order, you can always select this as the correct answer. If you uncheck this, then you have to choose whatever is the correct answer. So right now, I'm just going to keep answer A as the correct answer. Click on submit. What does this look like when you're building it out? This is what it will look like. If you want to edit it, just click on edit and it brings you back to the previous screen. You can put the point values in and you click OK. There it's highlighted. I'm going to click on submit. It gives you a lot of different test options. I'm just going to highlight some of them. A forced completion, which means the students, once they start it, they have to finish it in that sitting. Here's the timer option. There's an auto submit on and off. So what this means is if you set auto submit is set to on, it's, when the timer is up, the test will automatically be submitted. If you do auto submit off, they can continue afterwards, but it will be marked as late. At the bottom, test presentation, do you want to display all the questions at once? Do you want to do one at a time, prohibit backtracking? Probably the more common is doing it all at once, and there's the option for randomizing the questions. So I'm just going to stop there for tests. Feel free to play around with it, but that's how you were to do tests. Assignment. What this is, and I'm going to create a quick assignment. An assignment means a student is going to submit something to you for a grade. Most likely it'll be a paper or slides. So in the instructions box here, I'll say these are my instructions, or you can attach your instructions, click on Browse My Computer. You can choose a due date. So if I want to say, all right, something's going to be due March 25, I would also recommend for due time, since we're moving everything online, pick the end of the day, 11:59. The reason being, if you say something's due at midnight, Monday, let's say Monday at midnight, that technically means as soon as Monday hits. But if you say 11:59 p.m., then that's clear, very clear. It means at the end of the day. Points possible, you can fill that out. If you want to use a rubric. submission details. Do you want an individual submission or group submission? One attempt or multiple? I'm just gonna keep this as one attempt for right now. I'll just highlight, there's an option for using SafeAssign. This is a plagiarism prevention tool. What this does, and we'll do a workshop on this coming up. If you want to check the Albany events calendar, we're having some upcoming webinars tomorrow, Monday, and into next week. What SafeAssign is, it's a plagiarism prevention tool. So this means when a student submits a paper, their paper will be viewed against other papers in the database. It'll come out with a percentage of 0 to 100 of how much that paper's been plagiarized. Obviously, the higher the numbers, not good, but you still have to look at it. Sometimes it'll pick up things that are in quotes. Obviously, some things in quotes that's not being plagiarized, but you have to still have to look at it. But it's meant to be a learning tool for students. Sometimes students will blatantly plagiarize, copying and paste information, while other times students just don't know how to properly paraphrase and cite information. So it's meant to be a learning tool. I'm going to make the assignment available. So here it is, March 12 assignment. There are my instructions. So what's the student going to see? This is the due date. That's the points possible. These are my instructions. Now they have two options. They can write a submission, type directly. I would suggest against this. I would advise against this. In case your computer freezes, you lose a connection, I would highly suggest have a student, and you can tell this to them in an email, an announcement, any submission, type it up in Word, save it, proofread it. I can't tell you how many times students, they have lack of capitalization and typos and grammatical errors. So type it in Word, save, and proofread it rather than just typing in here. And they can attach their file. So just to show, I'm just going to make a very quick submission just to show you what this looks like. There's my submission, and I'm going to click submit. So what? Submission from previous. So here's my submission. I'm going to click submit. For some reason, I'm getting an error message. But when a student submits when they submit a document, it'll give them a confirmation. It's like a lot of letters and numbers. It'll give them a confirmation message when they do submit it. When a student does submit it, as I said towards the beginning of this session, you go to the Grade Center Needs Grading, it'll appear here. And once you do grade it from here, it'll be removed. So again, test, multiple choice, can be graded. You can randomize answers. Assignment, they're going to submit something, a paper or slides for a grade. If you tell your students your assignment is to read these chapters for next class, do not use the assignment tool. Just tell them in an announcement, in an email, the assignment tool, it's something that's going to be graded. All right, so now here at the very left-hand side, all these different communication tools, since this is what part of the session was, talking about the various communication tools for students. I'm going to start off with announcements. So this is what, if you set your default page as announcements, this is what students will see first. So to create an announcement, simply click Create Announcement. Again, make sure your edit mode is on. I'll say welcome. Hello class. You can highlight it, you can make it bold, you can change the font size and everything. You can also send a copy of this immediately to students if need be. I'll click on Submit, and notice there's my announcement. If I want to edit it, click the drop-down arrow, click on Edit, or I can come up here and click Create a New Announcement. The next two communication tools, email and messages. What's the difference? We've all heard of email. The nice thing about email is you can send out an email to all your students from Blackboard. It'll come from your Albany account. It'll go to their Albany account. However, any correspondence, the student replies back to you, it's going to be in your Outlook account, not Blackboard. But every student, I think, has smartphones, and if they have their phone set up where they get a new email, their phone will ding. Students typically will check email multiple times throughout the day anyways. So for a quicker response, I would use the email feature. The messages feature is similar but different. Everything is housed within Blackboard. So notice there's an inbox and a sent folder. So if I click on create a message, I want to email Chris. I'm going to move it over here. He's the recipient. I'm going to put in a message and hit submit. Everything is kept within Blackboard. So now here's my sent folder, and there's a message I just sent to this student. The downside to the nice thing is it's all kept within Blackboard, but the downside is students have to log into Blackboard in order to see this. Whereas with email, they typically would check email, as I said, multiple times throughout the day. The more common tool, I think more faculty use is the email tool. That's what I use. But if you want to keep everything within Blackboard, and you'd have to tell this to students, you can use the messages tool. Blogs and journals. Let me distinguish what the difference is between these two tools. These are very similar tools. The blogs tool is open to the entire class. The journals tool is private instructor to student. So to show you, what does a blog look like? So a blog is a student can come here, they can create a blog entry, and you as the instructor or other classmates can come in and make comments. So here's my blog entry. Notice I like to have conversations with myself. So if I click here, make a comment, here's another comment, and I click on add, notice the 2 goes to 3. So if I come up here, click create a blog entry, click post entry. So here's my blog entry, and if I were to come up here, click comment, the numbers will go up. So that's what the blog is. In my own class, I've used this for class introductions. I found it a great way to get to know student names, names of faces. I put a photo of myself. I have a short bio, and I ask students to do the same. I don't put points for it. Granted, we're mid-semester, so you probably don't want to necessarily do it for class introductions, but you could use it for course content. You'd have to come up with whatever your instructions are and have them post something. The journal tool. It's pretty much the exact same tool, except it's private instructor to student. In my own class, I've used it for self-assessment. So I teach a speech class, and I've had students come up with, I ask them a few questions. How nervous were you? How was your delivery? How was your introduction, conclusion? I ask a few questions. I find students are brutally honest. I make it worth a few points, and any feedback I give, it just goes to them. No one else in the class will see it. So just to show you, again, it looks very similar. There's a comment feature, but this will only go right to the student, not anybody else. If you're going to use blogs or journals, you want to make sure you make it worth points. Like anything else, if it's not worth points or not worth enough points, students won't do it. So again, map out first, based on how you got your syllabus set up, and you may have to modify your syllabus in the remaining part of the semester, but make sure whatever you're using, you make sure it has to be worth something. Otherwise, students won't have an incentive to do it. The next tool, which is a very important tool, which is definitely used very extensively online, is discussions. You can also incorporate this in your face-to-face class, but since we're moving all online, this can be a very, very important tool to use. We're also doing a couple discussion webinars more in depth tomorrow, but I'll just kind of show you some of the important things here to start. So what discussions are, these are asynchronous communication between you and the students. Asynchronous means as the instructor, you can post your questions, students can reply now, and then other students can reply minutes, hours later, days later. So there's some duration of time in between. It's not happening in real time. So to show you what a forum looks like, first of all, again, map it out on paper. If there's 6 weeks left in the semester, do you want to use a forum per week? Choose what's the time frame. So right here is the Unit 1 Astronomy. Here's my question. There's been a total of 28 posts, 5 unread, and there's been 5 people who have participated. So I'm going to click Unit 1. So this is what a discussion forum will look like. There's 2 ways to view it. There's a list view and a tree view. List view looks like this. It'll display the total. These are all the different threads, and these are the number of posts within the thread. Tree view looks a little different. You can collapse and expand the menu. Personally, I don't really have a preference. Both ways work for me. Default is list view, but if you want to prefer tree view, you can do that as well. So that's how you can view it. So to create a thread for a student, you can come here. There's an instructor's question. You can make your post. Click on submit. And here's my post. So students can read this and they can click on reply. Now, if you have, it depends how many students you have in the class. You may want to use their groups tool. If you got a lot of students, you may want to break them up into small groups to use discussions, because if you're requiring them to post once or twice and respond, you do the math, depends how many students, how many posts and replies, this field can get quite lengthy. Let me go back a screen. How do you actually set up a forum? So that's what a forum looks like. How do you set up a forum? So I'm going to say forum March 12 eggs. I already did one earlier with just March 12. These would be your instructions. Now your forum settings, very important. Standard view. This means students can come in, they can see other student posts and replies. The second option is like a post first option for any students who don't buy the book, they don't do any of the readings, they kind of piggyback off other student posts. Here, and a lot of instructors like this option, participants must create a thread in order to view other threads. So this means they have to actually post something of original thought before they can see anybody else's posts. Hence, a lot of instructors like this option. So depending which one you want is up to you. I'll just keep it on standard view for now. Grading, as I said before, you want to make sure that the forum is worth enough points. So again, map it out on paper. How many forums am I going to have for the rest of the semester? How much is each going to be worth? You gotta think about that. But right now, I'll just put this is worth 10 points. Down here, these are all default settings. If you want to change anything, you can check or uncheck accordingly. So if I want my student to edit their own or delete their own posts or edit their own posts, you can check or uncheck. You could just leave these as defaults, but if you want to change anything, feel free. I'm just going to click on submit. So it says here, forum March 12A has been created. So here it is, March 12A forum. So let's take a look. What's this look like for a student? So there it is. That's my instructions. If I click on this, notice, where do those instructions go? I think this is kind of a design flaw in Blackboard. The instructions are still there if the student clicks create thread. It'd be nice if the instructions appeared on the previous screen, but they don't. But that's where the instructions are. So you can come in here. I'll just make a very quick post just to show you. Click submit. There it is. So if I go back, previous screen, forum March 12, now there's been one post. So that's what it looks like. That's how you set it up. There's a lot of things to take into consideration. You know, how much is it going to be worth, but what are you actually discussing? Good discussions have open-ended questions. There's necessarily no right or wrong answer. Maybe current events, controversial issues. So questions where they can kind of run with. If everyone agrees, it's kind of boring. So think about the question, make sure it's a good and engaging question where you can get a lot of different answers. But plan that out first. How long is your discussion going to run for? If it's going to run for a week, you may want to have students have their first post by the middle of the week. And the reason I say this is if you had, let's say the discussion runs from Sunday, or let's say from Monday and it goes to Sunday. If I'm a student, I want to blow off a discussion, I'll just log on at the end of the week, I'll make a couple posts and replies and I'm done with it. Was it really part of an active discussion? No. So you may want to have the first post by students after they do your reading, maybe by Wednesday night, have an original post, and then after that they can respond to their classmates. So these are things you need to take into consideration. More will be discussed about discussions in our webinar tomorrow, but I just wanted to show you how to create a forum, how to view it, and I also want to show how do you grade a forum. So if you click on this first forum, there's an option here for grading. So for Ryan Johnson, I'm going to click on grade. So this will display his posts and replies. Everything he's done within this forum will be displayed. Grading by rubric. This is definitely something I would highly suggest. You want to have some kind of a grading rubric for students, especially for discussions. You can't just say, okay, well, this is an 8 out of 10. You can't just pull a grade out of the air. You need a rubric. If you Google a discussion board grading rubric, you will find plenty of examples. I always tell faculty, try to keep it simple. If you find a very complicated rubric, all you're doing is making yourself, give yourself more of a headache in the end. So create a rubric, you know, their content, what's the minimum word length, but you want to err on quality versus quantity. Somebody can post 5 times and say, I agree. Did they really contribute to anything? No. So, you know, maybe their original post has to be 100, 200 words. Maybe they have to incorporate an outside source. So you have to figure out what are your requirements for the discussion. So that all needs to be laid out for the students. Maybe a student has an A posting. They really did a good job with content, but there's a lot of typos, grammatical errors, and there's just no way you can give a 10 out of 10 for that. So factor all that into the grading. So here's a sample rubric just to show you. Demonstrates careful reading and inquiry. They've used citations, so on and so forth. So you can come up with your own rubric. If you Google rubrics online, you'll get a bunch of examples. So here you can fill in the grade, or you can fill it into the rubric if you're using one, and you can you would save the rubric for the student. So that's how you would go about grading it. In terms of your moderation for discussions, and you want to probably say this up front, you're there to be kind of as a moderator, as a facilitator. You're not going to be responding to every single student. If you have, let's say, 25 students, you're not going to respond to every single post and reply. So you might want to tell them, you know, you may respond here and there, but depending on the volume of students you have, you just don't have enough. You just don't have time to respond to everybody. But you are going to read through the posts. You may want to have some acknowledgement posts here and there, if you so choose. But you know, you got to tell students you're reading through them. But you're not going to be responding. It's your job as the instructor to just kind of get the ball started and let them run with it. You also may even want to have students lead their own discussions. So maybe for the last 6 weeks, maybe you have a couple students lead a discussion for the week. You know, they'd have to, you know, talk with you, make sure that their topic and question's appropriate. But there's a lot of different things you can do with discussions. The one thing you may find is in a face-to-face class, some of the quiet, shy students don't speak up too much. Usually you have a few students who will dominate the conversation. They'll have some students who will speak up here and there, and then there's some students who, you know, don't say much all semester. You'll find online it's more of a level playing field. Those quiet, shy students in class may speak up a lot more online than you ever would think. And it's not that they don't want to, and it's just maybe in class they're more quiet or shy by nature. But online, they have a lot to say. So it can really enrich your class, whether it's a face-to-face class or, you know, online. You know, a discussion board is kind of a meat and potatoes. So again, you may have to modify your syllabus moving forward, but a discussion tool is definitely recommended for having communication amongst the students. Again, come up with some good thought-provoking questions. So even before you go on to Blackboard, try to map stuff out on paper, plan it out. You know, how many discussions, what's it all worth? So a lot of it's just planning stuff out. And again, as I said, we're having some discussion a little bit more in depth tomorrow. I just wanted to show you how to go out and, you know, create discussions, grade them, and so on. Some other tools I want to point out. I already talked about the groups tool. There's a calendar tool. Anytime you put an assignment out, if you use a calendar, not everybody uses a calendar. I don't actually use a calendar in my class, but it'll display the assignment within the calendar here. Other instructors will use a course schedule, but you know, now that everybody's moving online, your course schedule may have to be modified. But the calendar tool, it can be a useful tool if you want to use it. I'll get back to wikis in a second. The My Grades link on the default template, which I showed at the very beginning, everybody should have a My Grades link. This is very important because this is where students will see their grades in their class. If for some reason your template or your course does not have a My Grades link, you can easily add it in. I will just show you right here. If you go back up to the top left, go to Tool Link. There's an option for My Grades, but again, it should be in your course anyways. So this is where students will go. This is a student tool. This is where they will see their grades, and they will see only their grades. They're not going to see anybody else's grades in the class. Wikis, I'm just going to touch upon. You've all heard of probably Wikipedia. I don't use wikis in my class, but you could use wikis for student collaboration on a certain document. So instead of, let's say you break up the class into different groups of 4 or 5 students, and maybe they're working on a group presentation, instead of students emailing each other back and forth, they can use the wiki. So let's say I go in and I create my original posts or my whatever I'm putting in there, my text. Somebody can come in and modify that, but you can always revert back to an original version. So our Albany wiki, we use the wiki here in ITS for creating all different kinds of Blackboard wiki pages and all different kinds of stuff. So we do use the wiki here. It's meant for student collaboration. I'm just pointing out where the tool is. I know we're coming up about on the hour mark here, but wikis are great for student collaboration. Let me actually stop right there. I know I've been talking a lot here for the last hour. Let me open it up to questions. I think I've covered a lot of the basics for how to get started, how to create your files. I've gone over some of the communication tools, assignments, tests. Let me stop here. Let me open it up to questions. So if you have questions in the group chat, feel free to type them into the chat box. Also, as I said a couple times before, we have upcoming webinars. If you go to the Albany events calendar, we are posting upcoming webinars. Again, we're getting a lot of requests from faculty, so we're trying to do a lot of group training here, trying to cover some of the basic stuff and more individualized stuff like discussions tomorrow. So look at the Albany events calendar if you want to register for any upcoming webinars. And Kim just posted a link right there in the group chat. If anybody has any questions, please put the question in. Is the wiki tool the best way to handle group projects? Are there other ways? For group projects, I would probably use the groups tool. So as I showed you earlier, if you go under here, users and groups, I would create small groups in the class. You can, you can use the discussion board. So for your question, for group projects, I would use the groups tool. The wiki is okay for collaboration, but it depends what you want to do. If you want them to use the group discussion board, I would use the groups tool. And with a lot of these, everything I showed today, I try to kind of highlight the most important stuff in the time we have. Go back, you're at home, try out these tools. Let me point out up here at the top right, there is a lot of Blackboard help. I know we've been trying to come up with a lot of documentation. If you click your name at the top right, there's a question mark here at the bottom. If you click on this question mark, this brings up an option, students, instructor. If I click on instructor, and there's a Blackboard help. So here you see on the left-hand side, if you need help with assignments, tests, grading, so on and so forth, you can type in the help box. So this can be a great resource for instructors and also for students. Again, click your name. It's the question mark box. This is for Blackboard help. So this can be a very useful tool for not only you, but also your students. Again, for anybody who logged in after I had started, Zoom is used for delivering webinars and screen recordings. That's the URL, albany.zoom.us, and there's also Respondus for free test building software. So feel free to take a look at those 2 links. To incorporate Zoom into Blackboard. So what I would do, yes, you can give the students this link. If you have to click on this link, you'd have to set it up yourself. It's pretty intuitive. Zoom also has their customer support if you have specific questions. So go to this URL, take a look at it. You'll want to have a webcam. So you may want to have some synchronous sessions. So Zoom can be good for some synchronous sessions for students, and you also can record, like I'm doing right now. I'm recording this webinar for the last hour. So if I was, if you were my students, I could save this and then I could upload it, and I could have students, watch the recording. So you can do a synchronous or an asynchronous session. I use groups in class to create a project and present to the whole class. Does that work in this setting? So Michael, are you use groups in class to create a project? So Michael, what are you referring to in your question? Are you referring to Zoom? You can create a lecture, you can upload it, and you can actually have students do the same if they're doing presentations in their class. You can use Zoom. How to present a project to the whole class. If you're talking about a project, if it's just simply uploading slides, you can go to the course content area and upload the file. If you want to just upload that. If you want to present like slides, but you're speaking behind the slides like you would do in a face-to-face class, I would use Zoom. Let me go back here. How do I create an essay type question? All right, so for an essay question, you go back to assessments, choose test. If you cancel this out, there is an essay option for a test. So let me just come here. If I edit this test, actually the test has already been taken, so I can't edit it. But when you create a test, there is an essay option. So if you remember earlier on when I showed the tests, let me just show you here quickly. Let me go on, build the test, create. So right here, when you create a question, there's an essay option. And again, the time test is in the settings. You'd have to create the test questions first, and then the settings you can do, there's a time limit. So Brian, how to present a project, how to have students present a project. So when you're saying present a project, they're giving like an oral presentation, I'm assuming you're referring to. I'm going to face the exact same thing with my own students. If I want them, I can simply just have them upload their slides and outline, but if I want them to present orally, they would also have to use Zoom. So Zoom would be the feature for uploading stuff. Let me also just put, so that's the Respondus software for best building out tests. You can take a look at that. Is Respondus capable of doing closed book and closed internet time tests? Lockdown browser. The one thing with Lockdown browser, you really need to be proctored, because with Lockdown browser, you can have multiple devices. I can be taking a test on a computer, but then I have my phone and I can look stuff up. So Lockdown browser is really, if you have a proctored exam, if it's not proctored, I'm not sure Lockdown browser is going to be the best solution. Is Respondus capable of giving closed book and closed internet time tests? No, any test online is going to be open book.
Dave, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Is somebody saying something online?
I'm trying to say something, Dave.
Okay,
can you hear me? You
yeah,
hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to comment on the Lockdown browser, only because I've been working on incidents this week, and there was a request to implement the lockdown browser, but we are still investigating that. So it may come to fruition over time here, but we do not have that implemented yet. The investigation's still being done on that.
I'm just looking through the questions here. Michael, in Blackboard groups, can I have teams work on different case studies and let each other see? So students are only going to see the group that they are in. If you want students to report back to like the entire class, you would have to use the group, the class discussion board. So if you want, they can work on different case studies, that's fine. And then again, if you want just the group members to see, they will see it. But if you want anybody else in the class to see, you would have to use a different tool such as discussions or blogs. If there's other questions, put them into the question chat, or if anybody needs to have their mic unmuted, I can unmute it. Is there an upcoming webinar on Zoom? I have to look at the events calendar.
I think Sharon is going to be doing one, Dave, as part of her workshop. But let's see, I'm looking for the schedule for tomorrow. I think she's going to cover a piece of that tomorrow in the how to deliver your lecture online. She'll be covering a little bit about Zoom. It's not entirely Zoom, but she is covering a bit on that. And then we're also going to have more sessions. We're all just kind of scrambling like you guys are.
Yep, so these are the sessions tomorrow. There's some at Blackboard Essentials, pretty much what I just covered today. Essentials and communication tools. There's an online discussions. It's actually 2 online discussions. So this is what's offered. Webinar, voiceover lecture. So these are some different options on Friday.
Oh yeah, Dave, can you hold that right there? Want to create a voiceover lecture? Yeah, she changed the title of that. So at 10:45 tomorrow, if you guys are available, that would be a great one to also listen in on.
So yes, I'm going to save this recording, and then I can upload it or email it out. I had an issue with the one this morning, or the one I did a little bit earlier. There was an issue with it saving, so I'll try to save it here, and I will try to send it out. In terms of posting, I'm not sure where we will post it, but let me take a note of that. Post webinar. I want to upload it to Ensemble, but of course Ensemble's down right now. They're probably getting hit hard from a lot of places. So yes, it's being recorded. I will post it. I'm just not exactly sure where we're going to post it for everybody right yet. So yes, this will be available for review. I'm just not sure when. Yeah,
Yes.
That's a great point.
Yeah, we agree, guys. This is a lot to digest, and we're trying to disseminate as much information as we can, as soon as we can. And we know that everyone's schedule isn't the same. So even though these webinars aren't perfect and, they're not all cleaned up, we plan on posting them, and we will let you know. And feel free to join in on another session too. We know it's a lot to digest in one sitting. So if you have the time, you're welcome to sit in on another offering as well.
OneDrive is a great option. So we'll discuss tomorrow where we're going to post them. Any other questions? Put them into the chat.
Can you hear the phone?
Yep, Jim, I can hear you.
I was trying to send a, this will be for the, more relevant for a workshop tomorrow or a webinar tomorrow. I was on the Zoom group chat, but I could not seem to post the message I wrote. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but it never was sent.
You said you were on the Zoom group chat?
Yeah, the one where everybody's been sending in questions and comments.
Yep. Look where
I had some, but I don't. I couldn't.
Is it to everyone, or did you maybe send it to one individual person? Does it say everyone?
No, I put it for everyone, but I couldn't figure out how to send it.
You should just be able to. Let me see here. Test, hit return. If you just hit the return key, you should see it.
But I'm on the phone, so maybe for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask, and it was only when I found the kind of for a moment the unmute button was shown here at the bottom of the screen, and that's when I was able to actually be heard and to get a response. Okay. Well, listen, this has been helpful, and I'll do this from the university tomorrow, so I have the microphone camera options as well.
Okay, that sounds good. The last question, the respond is Zoom links. You should be able to see them on your screen right now. Those are the URLs, and Kim put both of the links are in this group chat.
Great, thank you.
You should be able to, in the group chat, if you just scroll up, you should be able to see the link, so that if you click on it, it should take you out to those websites.
I can see the top, which says Zoom group chat. Is that what you're talking about?
It's as Michael said, how can I see these links? Let me again, I'll just put the link in. You should be able to, you can either click on it, copy and paste it into your browser, save it as a bookmark. The Zoom link is obviously much shorter. Can we save the chat? Yes, there is a save chat option. I'm gonna click save chat. So chat has been saved. We're not experts on Zoom. I'm knowledgeable, but I'm certainly not an expert on this, so I'm kind of learning as well. I don't know, on your end, are you able to click save chat? I'm clicking on it's the ellipsis here, right to the right of file. It says more. Maybe only I can see this. I'm not sure if anybody can see this. It says save chat. It's towards the right side, but maybe only I can see this. So you may have to list it as a host. So Oleg said it is available. All right, so I guess you can save the chat. So where you're looking, where it says to everyone, if you look to the far right, you'll see those dots. Click them, and you'll see an option that says save chat.
Mm-hmm.
If you have specific Zoom questions, go out to the Zoom website. They do have customer service. Just for the volume of requests we're getting, we're trying to point out to the vendors. So if you need specific Zoom questions, go out to the Zoom website. But I would suggest for Zoom, test it out, play around with it a bit at home, have a webcam, just try to test it out. If you have someone you want to maybe test it with, but like anything else, with the same thing with Blackboard, you just have to kind of use it. Any other questions or comments? Again, we'll try to get this. This has been recorded. I'm going to save it, and then it just comes down to posting this webinar. So it is on my, I jotted down a note here. if there's no other questions, we can stop the webinar. I'll still stay online here for a couple more minutes, but hopefully you found some of the things somewhat helpful. Again, everyone who's joined this session probably are at different levels. Maybe some people have never used Blackboard. Maybe some have used the basics. Some are more advanced. So we're going to have a mixed audience for any of these sessions as to what everyone's level of proficiency is with using any of these tools. So I will stay on here for a couple more minutes if anyone has any other questions, or if you want to unmute your mic, I can do that as well.
While you're waiting, Dave,
Yep.
I've got a question.
Sure. Hopefully I have an answer.
I haven't been able to do anything with the screen that you've been showing. I've been following it and taking notes, but I had no capacity for copying anything, highlighting anything, and so forth. Is there any way to sort of cope with that or avoid that problem tomorrow?
Zoom is pretty much, I could have actually given you host access. So if you want to, like, if you're using this for your students, you can give a student host access. It'll have obviously more capability, but if you're just, as the instructor, going to lead the session like I did today, all you can really do, you can type it in the group chat and you have to kind of, you know, take some notes.
Right. Okay, so you can't copy things. You said something at the very beginning about doing a screen save, but I couldn't figure out that at all.
Yeah, so if you go onto the Zoom website, and you can do, I think it's start a meeting. You can actually record like your own lecture, so you can pull up your slides. You can, you know, elaborate behind the slides. Go to the Zoom website, click on, I think it's start a meeting or host a meeting, and you can like record your own screen share session. So go to the website and take a look at it. You can. I tried it a little earlier today.
So that would allow me to record a lecture and then send it out via Blackboard.
You'd want to probably want to. So like today, you can save it in one of two ways. One, you can save it as a cloud. You can save it via the cloud. It depends how long it is. I would suggest against, you know, an hour-long video, I would maybe chunk it up, maybe 15, 20 minutes, an hour against students with short attention spans. But you can save it either locally or through the cloud. If it's through the cloud, it's going to be emailed to you. If it's saved locally, it'll be somewhere on your desktop. And then you have to upload it maybe to Ensemble or OneDrive. Again, Ensemble is down, so I was having some issues with that, but I will try to get this uploaded somewhere tomorrow.
Right. Well, then, thank you very much. What I'll do is I'll work with my TAs on getting discussion forums and a workable grade book set up.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to sign on.
Yep, I would suggest everybody, you know, go to the Zoom website. I'm sure they're going to have some video tutorials. You know, I'm certainly not an expert on using Zoom. I've used it, but I don't know everything. And if you have specific questions, I would reach out to Zoom directly. You're welcome. So thank you for attending the webinar. For those of you who are still on, feel free to attend any of our webinars tomorrow and in the coming days. I know this is a trying time for everybody, but we'll just have to do our best to, you know, move forward here in the second part of the semester. So I'm going to stop the recording right now.